Hello everyone, welcome back to the Greenwood Mulliner Show here on Newcastle Fans TV. Today me and Sam are joined by a man who's currently playing for Gateshead but has spent all his career pretty much at Newcastle United throughout the academy and also made a first team appearance under Steve Bruce, or was it just before Steve Bruce, Owen?
It was just before the game. It was the game before he took over, yeah.
And we are with Owen Bailey, who is currently playing at Gateshead, Mike Williamson's team, former Newcastle centre-half, and Sam. Owen's career up to date had some ups, some downs, but it's great to see him playing for Gateshead week in, week out, and they're doing really well at the minute.
Yeah, and I urge everyone, because obviously we've just passed an international break, and we've got another one next month to go up and to go and see Gateshead play. Because for those who don't know, Owen, how are you getting on this season? And because I understand as we speak now, you just had a decent result at the weekend.
Yeah, we're doing all right. We're still in the FA Cup at the minute. We've got a big game on Saturday against Mosque to get into the first round proper, which would obviously be massive for the club and for the supporters and stuff. And then in the league, we're doing all right as well. I think we're up to fourth now. But in terms of obviously it's early days for sort of points and be looking at where you are in the league, because obviously teams have played different amounts of games and stuff. But things are going quite well. We had a decent start, but then we drew a couple of away games and we got beat away at Leamington. But since then, we've sort of not really looked back. I think we've won 5 on the bounce now, including the cup. So I think there's a real sort of feel-good factor at the minute, and hopefully we can really sort of push on and try and keep going up the table and keep getting some positive results. Really.
Yeah, I've seen that you won at the weekend for Gateshead, and I'm sure, if I'm wrong, tell us I'm wrong, but were you getting a hug off Rob Elliott after the game?
Rob Elliott, yeah. Rob comes down. Rob loves it. So obviously he's really good friends with Mike and with Louis, and Busty as well, the assistant. So Rob sort of he's almost like another member of coaching staff. Obviously he's playing at Watford, so it's difficult for him to get there much, but when he's there when he can, and he loves coming, and he says he loves sort of watching my style of play and stuff. So Rob's obviously experience and stuff's massive for the group, really.
What's Mike Williamson like as a manager? Obviously, we've seen him all as a player for a number of years at Newcastle, and it's his first proper management job, isn't it? He's obviously played with a number of kind of different personalities at his time from Newcastle. Can you see any traits that he's picked up from Pardew or even John Carver? Has he ever accused you of being sent off on purpose?
No, I think he's quite a sort of driven kind of guy. He's everything's sort of centered around being really focused and being quite sort of driven and on it all the time, and sort of keeping everyone sort of pulling in the same direction. And there's kind of a clear kind of blueprint that we've got, and kind of like a real sort of style of play, which everyone seems to be buying into at the minute, which is obviously sort of high energy pressing, as well as sort of some attractive football at times, but mainly just sort of how can we take the sort of risk out of the game and get in good areas of the pitch. So really enjoying it at the minute, and I think he keeps everyone on their toes. He's always on everyone. Demanding that the standards are right up where they should be, and where we're aiming to be. So he's been brilliant so far. I can't sort of speak highly enough of him, really.
Fantastic stuff. Just going back onto Newcastle, Owen. When did it all start for you in terms of Newcastle? How young were you when you first got approached by Newcastle and started your Newcastle journey?
I think it must have been about 8. I was playing for North Shields Juniors as a young lad, and sort of with Matt. I was playing with Matty Longstaff and Sean Longstaff. A couple of lads were there now, and just sort of enjoying my football, and scored a few goals and stuff. And then Newcastle sort of came in for us. So obviously at a young age, I didn't really kind of understand what that meant, but I was just buzzing to be wearing the Newcastle strip and sort of doing what I suppose most kids kind of wanted to do at the time. So from there, I was just sort of going through all the age groups. Obviously I was lucky enough to be there from 8 right until I was 22. So spent a lot of years at the club, and had a lot of sort of good years as well. So really enjoyed the time.
when you finally make your way and progress up to the under 23s, what's it kind of like? Because obviously you've got the players that you've sort of grown up with, and then you get kind of your players that they've bought in to progress for the academy. And then, for example, last night, John Joe Shelby was on his comeback from injury playing for the under 23. So there's a kind of mix of players at that kind of level. Any kind of memorable first team players that you've sort of played with down there that you just thought, wow?
I remember we played West Brom once, and Daryl Murphy played. I think he just came back from injury, and he played the first 45 minutes, and like just sort of little things that, you know, just little movement and the way he sort of used his body, and I think he scored 2 and went off because he was only supposed to play 45. I think he scored 2 goals, and like everyone was just sort of blown away. And to be fair, same with John Joe Shelby as well. He's played a few times. When he's been come back from injuries and stuff, we played at Fulham as well, and you know, like the lads saying like some of the passes that he's hitting. Obviously, everyone knows he's got an unbelievable range of passing, but until you sort of see it up close and he sees things that you can't even imagine on the pitch, and he's hitting these passes where all the lads are like, "How's he even seen that? Never mind hit it." So to have players like that, it shows you where you've kind of got to be if you want to get at that level, and it's really good to try and sort of learn off them players and see how they sort of conduct themselves, both like in the change room, on the pitch, and just sort of lean on them to pick up little bits as you can, because obviously it's going to help you in the long run, as well as sort of helping them return to the pitch and sort of get a bit of game time for us, so to speak.
Definitely 100% agree with that. You were captain of the under-23s, Owen, and you must have shown leadership skills throughout the ranks to be given that opportunity. And when were you first told that you were going to be captain of the under-23s, and did you just want it straight away?
I was captain quite a bit coming through, and then I was looking to be captain of the under-18s as well, in sort of the Youth Cup and stuff, and some big games then, which were obviously big games at the time for the under-18s. And then I can't remember the specific game of being in the 23s captain, but it's something that at the time I probably took a bit for granted, and I think I probably just sort of saw it as just another kind of being like, oh well, like, you know, I didn't really look too much into it. But then I think when you come out of it and you look back and you reflect on it, it's something that obviously I really look back on with a lot of pride, and that something that I can really sort of cherish, really, to represent the club and sort of be captain at such a high level at the club, is sort of a good achievement and something that I'm sort of really proud of done.
And how much would the first team manager like a Rafa Benitez or Steve Bruce kind of pay attention to what's going on the under-23s? Because being the captain, you would think that you would be one of the first to sort of catch the manager's eye.
I think during my time it was difficult because there was a lot of sort of transition. I think when Rafa first came in, that was kind of when I was first sort of under 23s, kind of coming up to becoming the captain, and the kind of you look to.
And we'll never know.
While someone's just sorting out a few bits and bobs there, Sam, you can see straight away that, you know, the fact he talks about Mike Williamson in such high regard is fantastic stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, with Mike Williamson, it was always like kind of what you'd expect from a centre-back, just kind of steady Eddie, as it were. So it's kind of what you'd sort of expect, wouldn't it? And defenders always make good managers, apart from maybe the one we've got at the minute.
Owen, I'll let you get back into what you were saying. I think Sam, you were just asking about Rafa and Steve Bruce.
Sorry, that was a phone call. I've
no, don't worry.
off, but yeah,
it happened to Lee Clark, so you're not alone.
Oh well, happens to the best. Yeah, no, like I was saying, sort of, I think the under 23s wasn't really something that was massively looked at during my time there. I think I trained a couple of times. There was a spell where I trained quite a lot, sort of day before a game when Rafa was in charge. And then obviously he left, and then I was on the pre-season tour when Bruce took over in China, and that was kind of my real opportunity to sort of impress and sort of show what I can do. And I thought I'd done all right. I didn't think I wasn't blowing anyone away, but I wasn't terrible. But I think that sort of comes with the position as well. And I think that's sort of, if you're doing your job and you kind of go unnoticed, then that's probably a good thing for the kind of the role that I played back then. But I think after that, there was only Matty Longstaff who sort of stuck around and stayed up with the first team. And then kind of after that, that was sort of when the injuries hit, and that was sort of not much the end, but that was kind of when the writing was on the wall that it wasn't going to be as straightforward as, sort of keep progressing and try and break through.
Yeah, we'll touch about the injuries, and it won't be for long, believe me. We'll literally touch about it, and we'll move on to something a lot more positive. But I just want to talk a little bit more about the under-23s, because 2 finals in 2019, and you look at the team that you actually had. Like, I'm going to mention the Sunderland game where he scored the first goal, 5-0 win. I think Lee's got highlights of it on NFTV Extra. And I was just looking at that team, and like, it was weird because this was only 2 or 3 years ago, Sam. I don't know if you can remember that some of the players that were there. We had Sean Longstaff and Dan Barlays in the middle of midfield. You had Jamie Sterry at right back. You had Elias Sorensen, who came on and scored later on. Had Carl Roberts, who scored in the FA Cup match against Blackburn in the same season. So that was a hell of a team, Owen, when you think about it.
Yeah, looking back, I think in the dressing room we knew that we had a lot of quality in there, and I think obviously that was the season when we went on a good sort of checker trade run, and I think it was that January when we played Sunderland, and then I think Sean broke through. Jamie Sterry was involved with the first team, and when we played Sunderland away, we ended up missing a few players. I think we lost a couple of injuries as well. But I think if we had sort of a full team out that we had at the start of that season, then it would have been closer in that game against Sunderland's first team, and I think that's something that'll always kind of haunt me. I wish we had a full complement out against them, because I think if you look at where the lads have went on to go now, like the quality within the team was really, really excellent, and a lot of the lads have went on to have good careers, and I'm sure a lot of them are sort of still finding their feet and finding their way in the game, and they'll still go on to have really good careers, because we kind of knew what quality was in there, and that showed with a lot of the results and the performances that we had.
Definitely. Does it surprise you that maybe more of them didn't make it at Newcastle? Obviously, they still have good careers. Like Dan Barlay's are smashing it at Rotherham, and Matty's obviously out on loan at Aberdeen, but he had that memorable spell and the goals against Man United. But you say about the quality that team had, does it surprise you that maybe 1 or 2 more didn't feature for the first team a bit more regularly?
It does, yeah, definitely. I think if you look now, obviously the lads are doing well and stuff, but I think, like you said there, that there wasn't sort of a clear kind of pathway at the club for them, but there maybe could have been, and I think a lot of the lads kind of would have excelled. I think if you look at Sean when he was stuck in, he was excellent, and he still sort of is playing excellent now. And I think obviously Matty was the same. He got an opportunity, took it with both hands, and he was excellent, and he still is. And you know what I mean? And I think a lot of the lads who were there, I think if they had been sort of thrown in and given an opportunity, that you would like to hope that they would have done sort of well and sort of stuck around. But I think with the way that it's almost the way that modern football is. I think teams would rather go out and buy someone for £5-10 million who's sort of maybe an international footballer or played at a high level, and you can totally understand it, because obviously it's experience and stuff, and you can't buy that. But from my point of view, from a youngster's point of view, you're just hoping that someone would take a chance on you and sort of give you the opportunity to sort of sink or swim, really, because there's no guarantees that you're going to go in and you're going to play well. You know what I mean? You could go on and have a stinker and you'd never be seen again. But I think it's sort of the opportunity that everyone craves, really, more than anything else.
I've got to touch about that Sunderland game a little bit more though. And I was there as in the gods in the away end. There was thousands of us, and honestly, it was just surreal. It was just absolutely brilliant watches playing. And the first half, I go, do you know what it is? I vividly remember a cross coming along the box, and I don't know who was trying to get on the end of it, and thinking, could you imagine if they went 1-0 up against Sunderland's first team? And obviously, the result wasn't successful in the end, but it didn't matter. It didn't matter, and he's done really well. Yeah, like I say, he took a League One team at half time, like just a couple of minutes after half time is when they scored the first goal. What were you thinking at half time in particular? Thinking we can actually have a go at these and maybe nick a result here, because you actually looked a really solid team.
Yeah, well, I remember before the game, it was a weird atmosphere because all the lads were playing Sunderland, who were like the best team in League One, or if not the best team in League One, and so it shouldn't be there. And we're all kind of confident, and we're all thinking, we can give them a real game, and I think that's something that obviously showed in the first half. And we went out and we were quite fearless, and obviously defensively we were sound, and like you said there, we created a few chances, and then at half time everyone sort of sat there thinking, we've got a real chance. Just keep sort of doing what we're doing, and we might nick a 1-0, we might nick a 2-1. As long as we're in the game, then we've got a massive chance. But then 2 set plays later, 2-0 down, then it's a massive uphill battle. And I don't think we didn't get played off the park. We didn't get picked apart. Obviously, got beat 4-0 coming away. People probably think, they got sort of outclassed and totally sort of schooled. But anyone who was at the game, like obviously you'll know yourself, we played pretty well, and 4-0 really wasn't a scoreline that was sort of deserved. I think we deserved I wouldn't say we deserved to win the game at all, but I think we definitely deserved to be closer. And on another day, I think we could have possibly nicked something, which obviously would have been unbelievable. Like you said there, the fans, which were amazing. We've never experienced anything like that before. And so that was just, even looking back now, that was just such a big day for everyone who was involved. And I just sort of wish it was one that we could look back on with a bit more happiness, and not being a 4-0 drubbing, really.
Get through to the first round proper of the FA Cup, and then get them at Gateshead, get your own back. Exactly. That's what you want. I'm interested I'm intrigued about a couple of things you said previous there, Owen. Do you think, because you mentioned when you were at the under 23s, it was sort of a transitional time and there was kind of a lot going on, do you think at that time in the academy there was something missing, and things weren't as running as smoothly as it should be done, as it were? There wasn't a clear line of progression for the youth products of Newcastle United?
I think it was sort of just the link between the youth and reserves, 23s set up, and the first team that kind of wasn't really there. I think leading up, all the age groups leading up to the under 23s seemed to be lads. Obviously, you look at the likes of Joe White, Elliot Anderson. They kind of at that period were sort of 16, 17, but they were kind of getting chances to play with us, which obviously at the time for them is a massive thing, and it's the next progression for their career. So I think on the like our side, so to speak, of things, that was there and that was kind of in place, but I don't think there was any kind of real sort of opportunity or pathway to progress lads up and to really get lads kicking on. I think, like I said before, obviously going back before that, Sean got a chance and was excellent, and Matty. But other than them two, no one sort of really got the chance. And when they did, like the likes of Carl Roberts, he scored in the FA Cup. You know what I mean? And I think you kind of that is taking your chance, really. So I think it's just sort of the route to getting there wasn't sort of in place, and there wasn't sort of anything in place to be that transition and sort of integrate lads into the squad.
Can I ask about Ben Dawson, Owen? Because he came in, and it has to be said, he's kind of transformed the club in little ways, because the academy or the under-23s weren't getting the results. The performances were probably okay, but the results weren't coming through. And obviously that season where he came in, it seemed to just gel, and just everything seemed to work really well together. He's been put on the first team now. He's been with the first team for a little while now. What are his best attributes as a coach?
Yeah, well, Ben's an excellent coach, and he sort of has a real clear sort of style of play that he wants and sort of believes in. And it mainly comes from sort of Rafa's philosophies of being defensively solid. I think Ben really bought into what Rafa was buying into at the time and what he was trying to teach were in terms of the units and sort of the way that we would sort of slide across and kill space, because I think a lot of the time it's sort of people think it's sort of you against a man and you've got to sort of be better than your opponent, whereas then it was a lot of to do with sort of space and marking space and, you know, cutting off sort of angles, and I think that was like when everyone was buying into that, it was a real positive, and that's why there was a lot of positive results, because everyone had a clear sort of like vision of how he wanted to set us up and how he wanted us to play, and that was why the results definitely were positive. And I think Ben obviously being up with the first team now as well, that was always kind of going to be the next thing for Ben, because obviously when he was with us, he done really well, and I think him and Steve Harper are really big on trying to get more lads involved with the first team, because obviously it's no secret that there's not been a massive amount of them. Obviously, like I said before, keep going back to them, but Sean and Matty are involved there, and Elliot Anderson's up there a lot now. But I think other than that, there's not been a lot recently. So I think that's kind of that's what they're looking into, trying to get that happening more often.
Yeah, you're right, because there's definitely a lot of talent in the Northeast, isn't there? There's no doubt about that. So I'm going to mention the T word, takeover. How much of a benefit do you think that would be for players progressing from the under-18s to the 23s to the first team?
I hope it's positive. I think obviously from a kind of a fan's point of view, you want to see them going out and buying the best players. You want to see them spending 100 million on forwards and stuff. You know what I mean? You want all the exciting transfers, but I think obviously from the sort of the academy point of view of looking at that, I think you're probably then looking and thinking, well, then there's less chance for me. But then I think that's kind of a negative way to look at it. I think the flip side of that is they're bringing in quality players. You've got a better chance to sort of learn off them quality players, and you've got a better chance to try and get your levels to where they are and become a real top player. And I see no reason why that can't happen. I hope that the people who've taken over do look into having something in place where it's more of a smooth transition from coming through the academy to then sort of being involved with the first team. But you look at some of the talent that's came through and has sort of slipped through the net, and it's crazy, really. You know, like Adam Armstrong's playing in the Premier League, and Ivan Toney both scoring goals in the Premier League, and it makes you think, like, sort of how did they not get a chance? Do you know what I mean? And I'm hoping that going forward that the club will obviously have looked at that and they'll have sort of learned from it, and they'll be thinking that hopefully no one else sort of slips through the net and we can get more local lads involved, because I think that's what every sort of supporter wants to see. They'd love to see local lads playing for the team.
I'm sure it was Sir John Hall that said he'd love to have 11 Geordies out on the pitch one day for Newcastle. That would have been a sight that everybody would have loved. Just briefly, Owen, we have to mention the injuries, because it was at a really, really bad time, because you were kind of probably on the cusp of probably a good loan move, or maybe on the bench for the first team. It was really, really close, and to have those injuries back to back in the end, mentally, I don't know how you cope with that, because to be so close to where you could be, and I'm sure there was probably clubs that were looking at you to take on loan for that first half of the season, or maybe a full season. It must have been so tough, but to get through that and to see where you are now, you must be so proud of yourself. Yeah,
it was a really tough time, not just for me, but for my family as well. You know, they sort of lived every minute of it with me, and they kind of knew what it meant to us. And then I think we didn't speak about it, but we knew that it was such an important time, and we knew that it was the worst timing. But I think the way we kind of dealt with it was sort of just being positive and thinking how we can sort of positively affect it, because it's done. You know what I mean? It's one of them things where it's happened. You can't do anything about it. You've just got to look forward and think about what you can do. So I think the way that I tried to deal with it was just sort of coming back in the best shape possible, and in the best sort of mental space to think that I know where I want to get to, and I'm kind of going to do everything I can to get there. And I think like I don't really think of myself as mentally that strong, you know. I think I just sort of did what was natural at the time, and it's not until you take a step back and obviously like things that when you say that obviously it was sort of a tough time, when you realise that obviously it was a really tough period, and to get through that obviously it is a sort of string to me bow, and it's something that I'm really, like you said before, I'm proud to have done. And I think looking back now, I can kind of really look back with a lot of pride on it, and now I'm just hoping to put that behind us. Sort of haven't had any concerns so far, touch wood, and I'm hoping that continues, and I can just sort of keep playing my football regularly and keep getting games under my belt, and sort of showing what I can do on a Saturday, and then seeing where that takes us, really.
I mean, were you a bit sort of, obviously, injuries, and then your contract expired? Were you a bit disappointed that maybe, because you'd been, as you say, at Newcastle since you were 8 years of age, were you a bit disappointed that maybe the club didn't give you just an extra year to kind of prove your worth, or did you kind of get the feeling that the writing was on the wall and you'd almost sort of made peace with it before you were told?
Well, like again, I lent a lot of my family for that. My agent, who was brilliant at the time, you know, we had a lot of conversations about what the outcomes would be, because we sort of knew that the contracts were coming up, and we had a lot of conversations about what the scenario is if I don't get something, if I do get something, how does it look? You know what I mean? I knew that if I was going to get kept on, it would probably only be 1 year. And I knew that year would revolve around going on loan. And I think if you look at it, that could be viewed as a waste of a year. But then on the flip side, I had the flip side argument of then I need to sort of have somewhere that I can actually sign for and play football. Do you know what I mean? Because obviously with COVID and stuff, it's a different kind of industry at the minute, and teams aren't carrying massive squads. But then again, that is also a positive thing for me, because since I've went to Gateshead, I've played all games, and really enjoyed playing. So I think looking back, it's been something that's been a real godsend, and something that has happened for a reason. You know what I mean? I think if I had a sort of stuck about, I could have maybe went on loan. And you look at some of the lads who've been on loan or are on loan, and I think loan players often get sort of cast aside. And if push comes to shove, I think loan players often aren't picked purely not down to ability a lot of the time. I think it's because it's not their player, and I think they've got to sort of look after their own squad, and you can understand it. But from the player's point of view and from the club's development point of view, you want the lads playing all the time, and you want them playing every week. So I think to be signed obviously permanently for Gateshead's a completely different situation, and something that I'm really happy I've done in the end, actually. So I'm really pleased in the end that I've actually signed.
Like, it was terrible with the injuries. 583 days out. That's got to be tough for any footballer. Like you say, it must have been difficult. But one thing I don't think Sam knows, and I'm gonna leave it now. You obviously scored against Norwich in the last minute. Sam, you'll never even think who Owen replaced. I think it was after about 75 minutes. It could have been maybe a bit earlier than that. But who do you think he came on for, Sam?
What can I have clues?
He's played for the first team.
What? No. Okay. What year was this?
So he's only just left recently. That's the only clue you're getting.
He's only just left recently. What? Saivet?
Yeah.
Is it really? Still without a club? I bet he wishes he was at Gateshead, Owen. You've got the plum draw there. Saivet, wow.
What was he like, Saivet, before we're going on about that goal? What was he like? Was he actually, it's not as bad as what people make out?
He's a really talented footballer. I think that's the thing. A lot of the players who sort of drop down and play with us, who I think obviously the fans see them on a Saturday and think they're not very good and stuff, but you watch them train with us or playing with us, and some of the abilities, it's really, and you.
It's Saivet just telling him just to be careful about what he was saying.
It is, yeah. Justice for Saivet. Wow.
Were you surprised by that, sir?
Yeah, you're right. Without a clue, I would never have got that. I would never have got it in a million years. Saivet. I mean, maybe, just maybe now, we're mad stinking rich and all that, we could get him back and pay him like 200 grand a week.
That would be interesting. But as Owen comes back, I think that was probably Henri Saivet just telling him don't.
I was going to say. Sorry, that was Henri. That was Henri ringing us out.
You're seeing if you can get him into Gateshead.
No, but yeah, like I said, the likes of Henri, these lads are great players. You know what I mean? And I think in the times that he did play for the first team he played against, I think it was maybe West Ham. He scored a worldie goal, and I think he's, you know what I mean. These players are good players. For whatever reason, they don't sort of kick on at the club. But they're still really talented. Do you know what I mean? And I think it's easy to forget that these lads are still being brought in. You know what I mean? They're still top players and pros, and most of them have been spot on in terms of off the pitch what they help us out with, really.
Well, just
how important was it to stay in the northeast, Owen? Because obviously you mentioned just how important your family were. Was that a big contributing factor in wanting to sign for Gateshead and stay in the northeast?
It's a strange one, because I think when I was told that I was released, I kind of resigned myself to the fact that I would be moving away and I would be starting somewhere new, and in a way I was kind of looking forward to sort of being on my own and fending for myself, and and like having a different challenge, because that's something I've never experienced. But then looking at it now, it's been great to stay around and to have them there, to have my family there, and to have a lot of lads that I've played with before who I know are top players but also top lads. That's massively helped. Because obviously there's times where you come in and you might be a bit deflated, especially for me. I find it hard sometimes because mentally I'm thinking about doing things on the pitch and my legs might not be keeping up with us. Do you know what I mean? There's things where you get frustrated, because when you've been over such a long time, you think things are just going to suddenly click back into place and you're going to be back to where you were. I think it sort of took a bit of time, but I'm kind of getting there now and getting towards back where I was, or where I felt I was before I got injured. And I think, like you said there, I think it would have been probably tough for me to do that away from home. So being at home now is obviously a real positive thing, really.
Yeah, definitely. And we'll have to talk a little bit about Newcastle in its current day. But I don't know if you've heard, but we've been taken over and we're potentially...
We're mad stinking rich.
While you were at the club, did you ever think it was ever going to happen while you were at the club, or did you always kind of think it's always kind of going to be under Mike Ashley?
Well, I think I speak for everyone when it was one of them things where everyone kind of just thought it was never going to happen. I think it's one of them things where obviously the club went up for sale and stuff, and obviously I don't know kind of what happened behind the scenes, but obviously the first time when the current group who's now took over came in and stuff, I think even then no one truly believed it. I think I know I didn't. I know, like, obviously I had sort of my dad, my granddad and stuff saying, "Oh, have you seen Twitter? This is on there and all that." And I remember just thinking, like, I've heard it all before. It's not, you know what I mean? It's not going to happen. So to then for it to have happened literally out of the blue, really, now it was sort of a two or 3 day thing where it was sort of back in the spotlight, wasn't it? And then next thing, it's definitely on. It's happened. So I think that's probably better than the long drawn out process that was happening before. Anyways, I think it gives everyone a little bit of a buzz and doesn't have everyone sort of hanging on, because I think everyone had given up on us.
Do you think that maybe it could benefit Gateshead sort of, in a weird sense, because that this consortium obviously wants to invest in the whole area, the whole community. They want it all. Do you think that could benefit? Maybe Gateshead might just be sent an extra player or two on loan every season, or I don't know. I mean, drum up some extra support for you guys on your way back up.
Definitely. At least I hope so. Anyway, I think if you look at the sort of the crowds this year for us, they've went up game by game, and I think there was just over 1,000 in on Saturday. And I think that's sort of down to the way that we're playing, but obviously the results as well. And I think people are sort of buying into that. I think with the takeover and stuff, I think if the results improve, obviously at Newcastle and the other side of the river, I think that can only be a good thing for Gateshead, because there'll obviously be a sort of positive feeling in the area, and I think everyone will want to sort of watch football and support football and in the area. And I think this year's a big year for us. I think if we can go up, then it'll definitely be a positive thing for loan players and stuff, because I think it would become a sort of real option for lads to come to Gateshead, and I think it kind of should be anyways, because I know I speak for myself. I know I speak for a lot of the lads as well when I say that the standard's a lot better than some of the lads would realise at Gateshead. So I think getting out of the league's a real important thing for us this year, and hopefully we can do that and then take it from there, really.
100%. We just look at Hartlepool and obviously Jamie Sterry. They've got themselves back into the Football League, and that's not a million miles away. It's not a million miles. And you have one good season this season, and then let's see what happens next season, and you could be really in it with the big boys. But just finally, Owen, what do you want out of your career? What do you think? What would you be happy with in your footballing career? Do you want to say play Football League? Do you think you can play, higher than that sort of level, or do you just want to go out and enjoy the game and just enjoy being a professional footballer?
It's a difficult question. I think I'm not someone who sort of sets goals. But when I was younger, the ultimate for me, everything was obviously playing for England. And I think since injuries have hit and stuff, that's obviously took a massive blow. And I think to go from playing where I am now to play for England would be something massively out of the ordinary. But I think I'm going to do everything I can to sort of progress as well as I can and play at the highest level I can, and just take it from there, really, and take it step by step. I don't like to sort of look too far in the future, and I try to sort of impact what I can impact, and that's obviously having a positive year at Gateshead this year, and then seeing what happens there. Hopefully we'll go up, and who knows from there. Hopefully we can sort of I can work my way into the Football League, and then just take it from there, really.
Oh yeah, great stuff. I mean, we wish you all the best of luck, and I mean, everyone watching this now, and like next international break, I think you got Alfreton at home, so just Newcastle aren't playing, so there's no there's no Mbappe or Haaland. I mean, it's not even the transfer window yet, but anyway, there's none of that to go and watch. So head on down to Gateshead and see him spank Alfreton Town, eh?
Just very, very briefly, Owen. I'm sure Mike will not be watching this weekend. Did you have a couple of cans last week?
I don't know what it is. I didn't. I kept myself right. I was as much as I wanted to. I was keeping myself right. Got a big game Saturday. Exactly. You've got to look after yourself.
Fair enough. Well, you got the win anyway on Saturday. I think it's probably for the best. But Owen, it's been absolutely brilliant having you on. It's been a real pleasure talking to you about all things Newcastle and Gateshead. And like Sam says, we wish Gateshead all the very best. Wish yourself all the very best, and hopefully you can get promotion at the end of it. Thank you very much. Cheers for having us. Thank you. No worries. Sam, where can everybody listen to this podcast? Every podcast app you can think of. Just search the Greenwood Mulliner Show on Newcastle Fans TV and hit that 5-star review. From myself, Jonathan Greenwood, Sam Mulliner, and Gateshead defender Owen Bailey, we'll see you all very soon.